Haidong. In this video, we're going to talk about the left wing guard. Hopefully this goes without saying, this is not a political guard. There is obviously going to be a right wing guard as well, otherwise it would just be the wing guard. But the guard I'm talking about, right, so this is the one that is seen in Sangsu 11, right? So let's briefly just kind of talk about, first of all, why it's called a left wing. Why is it? It looks like a wing is on your left-hand side, right? So hence, left wing. This is obviously, I'm going to put the Korean down into the doobly-doo down below, just so you kind of see potentially what's going on there, as opposed to the right wing, right? Right wing, which is a lot more common, for example, in Sangsu 12, right? But this guy, right? So just holding this guard, you might be confused, right? Because, so for example, if we're in middle guard, yes, our wrists are exposed, and that's kind of the main reason why we pull them back. But notice how, so it's not simply a pullback like in Paosungse. This is actually almost like folding your arms completely together, closing off your chest, and really just kind of strangling the hilt a little bit more on your left side here. So you might be kind of confused, like, okay, why would this be better than just a Paosungse, for instance? Let's take a look. As with everything, context is very important, right? You can have the best guard in a void and it's not gonna do its best, right? So let's take a look at the actual portion in the form, right? If you remember, so from Sangsu 11, we just did our happy little cross cut, and we bounce back with our left wing guard. So this might be somewhat new to some of you. I know it was new to me recently, but the footwork after this, right? So from here in Sangsu 11, the way that I was taught was just simply forward, forward, and then just go straight into our cut like so. However, so hopefully this isn't like revealing deep secrets, but the footwork is going to be what's called heavy footwork, right? So instead of simply being like nyar, nyar, right? It is going to be a lot more rolling step, right? So it's here, kind of rolling up, here, rolling up. So once again, you might be like, who cares? like, why does it matter that I'm doing this instead of just simply going forward? It'll make sense in a little bit, right? But what is the very next move, right? So we're here. So again, the way I originally learned was forward, forward, just double step center, right? However, in a more kind of recent revision, right? So if we're here, it's going to be roll up, roll. So start your roll. You're actually going to do an X block, absorb the momentum into your center cut. Okay, so maybe from the side, right? So from here, gotta make sure I'm in frame. So from here, so rolling step. So imagine I've done that a few times. So here, up, center cut. From there, we do the spidey sense stab. You imagine someone's behind you, and you're able to stab them magically through the throat. Very unlikely, but there we are. But so why does that footwork suddenly make this guard make a lot more sense? For context, let's actually take a look at a combination from Yaido. Again, this not Yedo as in the I guess second Dan material, but Yaido as in the Japanese style of drawing and putting the sword away, right? There is a combination that is not really intended so much to be super applicative, but it's a combination that we've done at least in the past, right? And it seems to make sense, right? So obviously the stance is not going to be the same as Kimase, bear that in mind, right? The idea is we do center cut, rise, center, rise, center. So obviously you can do this as many times as you want, really feeling the sensation of dragging your weight down with the cut and pushing yourself up with the block. So you might be like, you bring in this outside source, what's it doing? Let's take a look, right? So if we're here, what is one major thing that's going on with our step? So it's a heavy step, so I lead with the heel, and as I roll onto my ball, I'm going to be actually lower and bring back up. Heel, lower. So really engaging the knee a lot more. So that's not great for your knee, but it's going to give you a lot more push up motion. Let's put it together. So the sensation of that roll up, right, especially if I'm going to be using that roll as a defensive maneuver, is going to make a lot of sense. So from here, right, I'm going to try to be as far back as possible. Here, so roll, roll. Person's going to try to attack you as you're initiating. I'm low. I'm going to use this motion to block up and use their momentum to come down with the cut. From the side perspective, right? So if we're here, so roll up, roll up. Start your roll. As you plant, they're giving you a cut. Push up, block, cut. And then you could do your spidey sense stab. So this is again mostly engaging using your whole body to generate a very powerful equal and opposite block. So you don't perish, and you can also use their momentum to give yourself a powerful strike. So although none of the application was taught by the Federation, for example, so again this is me doing my weird stuff as usual, there's still going to be a few different uses of this guard. It may not be what you're doing in the form. In fact, one of them definitely isn't. But I just want to give you, again, more exposure to other ways you can use this guard. So for example, right, even within the form, this can still make some sense. Again, this is no longer canonical with the Federation, but it's still a way you can use this, right? So someone's being sassy with you, you can advance, you can do heavy step if you want, but this is the old way I used to do it. One way you can do it is if you're out here. A fairly good use of this guard is actually just a smack, right? So if someone gives you center cut or even a dime cut, use your body to strike, center cut, right? As opposed to the right wing. Right wing would not be able to do that very effectively because I would need to generate, more or less generate potential and then kinetic energy. This has a lot of potential energy stored up because it's twisting. I'm kind of clenched over here. All I need to do is strike very easily and give yourself some good power into a nice counter combination. So that is one potential use of this, aside from the more canonical way of doing it. But the other way I would like to introduce as well is you don't need to always do center cuts, right? So from here, all I can do, right, especially if someone is going to try to give me a center cut, for instance, all I need to do is actually just step forward and come up with an uppercut, right? So the main reason I say that is, first of all, you can aim for the underside of the wrist, right? Which is usually not as armored if they are wearing armor, and also if they're not wearing armor, they're not going to be happy about that, right? But also, this is going to be more of a twist cut, but you actually don't need to do much with your arms. You're just going to twist your body, step up. So this is going to be a very powerful motion, very stable. Even if someone stops me halfway through, I have a good amount of momentum going forward that probably still going to do some happy damage, right? So a drill I would just recommend that you practice, right? So obviously try the 1, 2, 3. Try the smack 2, 3. And then number 3 is going to be up. So uppercut. So another thing with this one is if my cut is true, my tip is on their throat line and I'm underneath their arms, which means even if they try to follow through with their cut this way, my sword is between their arms. They're just going to facilitate the tip going into their own body. So not great for them, but great for you. So this is a really great defensive guard. So yeah, so hopefully this is making sense. I know it's a very niche guard. I think of the forms I know, haven't seen it again, let alone that heavy step as well. So this is a very specific guard. It's a very interesting guard, and I think it will be a lot of fun for you to do in your sparring matches. So hopefully with that, so give that a go, obviously safely, right, as with all things. But yeah, so with that, make sure you stay safe, stay humble, and as always, keep training. Haidong!